Ladies and gentlemen, let's get into something real today. 4 behaviors that can diminish how a man perceives your value. Now, I'm not talking about your actual worth because believe me, you are absolutely priceless. What I mean is how you carry yourself, how you allow a man to view and treat you. There are certain things that command respect and others that cause him to look elsewhere. If you accept the bare minimum, then that's all you'll ever receive. You cannot let a man get comfortable offering you 50% effort when you're giving your all. A man will only rise to meet the expectations you put in place. If you don't require respect, consistency, and dedication, he won't give them to you. Men, like water, take the easiest path available. If they realize they can get away with minimal effort, they absolutely will. It's not always because they're inherently bad, it's because they respond to the boundaries and expectations you enforce. Think about it like a job. If a company pays you the same regardless of whether you excel or do the bare minimum, what would you do? Most people start to slack off. That's human behavior. Relationships follow similar patterns. If a man knows he can show up late, cancel at the last moment, or ignore your emotional needs, and you still stick around, why would he put in more effort? He's not going to suddenly have an epiphany and decide to treat you better out of the blue, especially if you're already accepting less. The only time a man truly levels up is when he realizes he might lose you otherwise. It begins subtly. Maybe he forgets to reply to your messages. Maybe he stops making plans. You think it's okay, he's probably just busy, and you brush it off. Then the effort continues to decline. He knows you'll still be there regardless. Then you start questioning why he no longer treats you the way he did at the beginning. The answer? You permitted the shift. The way a relationship starts doesn't determine how it continues. How you maintain it does. If you establish high standards early, a man will either rise to meet them or walk away. And trust me, if he walks away, he was never meant to be your partner in the first place. There's a difference between being empathetic and being a doormat. Empathy means you understand people go through rough patches. Being a doormat means constantly justifying toxic behavior and accepting less than you deserve. Love should never be synonymous with tolerating disrespect. A man is fully aware when he's giving the least effort. If you allow it, he will continue. It's on you to communicate how you expect to be treated. Let's be real. Setting boundaries doesn't mean you're controlling or playing games. It means you recognize your value. You're saying, I deserve someone who follows through, who values my presence, who puts in real energy, and who respects my time and emotion. A man who truly wants to be with you will meet those expectations. Men are natural pursuers. When they desire something, they chase it. If he's not chasing you, it's not because he's unsure or afraid, it's because he doesn't value you enough. And if he doesn't see your worth, why continue wasting your time? Think about the strongest, most self-assured women you know, those in solid, respectful relationships. Do you think they accept crumbs of effort? No. They uphold their standards, and the right men meet them. They're not out here begging for love or chasing approval. They walk away from anything that doesn't meet their energy. That's the attitude you need. When a man sees that you command respect, he will either honor you or exit your life. And either way, you win. Stop thinking you can transform a man by loving him harder. That's not how it works. A man won't evolve just because you give him more of yourself. He evolves when he chooses to. You can offer loyalty, affection, and unwavering support, but if he doesn't respect you, none of that will matter. Respect is tied directly to what you tolerate. Every time you overlook a red flag, you're teaching him that his behavior is acceptable. Every time you accept an apology without real change, you're signaling there are no consequences. That's how some women get treated like royalty while others are taken for granted. It's not about beauty or wealth. It's about boundaries. If you're always available, constantly forgiving, endlessly giving without expecting reciprocity, you're not being loving, you're making it easy for him to take you for granted. Real love feels balanced, mutual, and meaningful. It shouldn't feel like you're in a constant battle to prove your worth. A man should want to pursue you because he genuinely sees your value, not because you're playing a game, but because you have genuine confidence. And confidence isn't declared, it's demonstrated by what you accept and what you refuse. Stop holding on to potential. Stop waiting for him to become better. Stop making excuses for why he can't step up. If he truly wanted to, he would. When a man genuinely cares about you, he does everything he can to keep you. He doesn't risk losing you. He doesn't keep you guessing. His actions will tell you everything you need to know far louder than his words. That's the honest truth. Desperation is one of the quickest ways to lose value in a man's eyes. He can sense it immediately. And when you're always the one chasing, begging, or bending over backward to keep him around, he loses respect. A queen doesn't plead for a spot at someone else's table, she is the table. Desperation shifts the power dynamic in any relationship. When a man senses you need him more than he needs you, he holds the upper hand. But this isn't about pretending you don't care or playing hard to get. It's about knowing your worth to the core. It's about not feeling the need to convince anyone of it. A relationship should be a partnership, not a performance. Not one person proving their value while the other simply enjoys the attention. Consider the relationships you've seen where one partner does all the initiating, makes all the plans, and forgives every inconsistency. What usually happens? The other person becomes complacent, puts in less effort, and takes them for granted. Why? Because there's no reason to try harder, no risk of losing what they already have. If you send the message that you'll stick around no matter what, you remove any sense of urgency or accountability from the relationship. That's exactly why desperation erodes value. It communicates that you'll accept whatever is given instead of demanding what you deserve. A self-assured woman walks into a man's life and adds value, but she doesn't revolve her world around him. She has her own life, her own goals, her own passions. She doesn't rearrange her priorities just to fit into his plans. She doesn't plead for his attention or beg for his time. When a man sees that a woman is fulfilled on her own, it draws him in. Confidence attracts. It tells him she doesn't need him, she chooses him. And that distinction changes everything. When a man knows he's with someone who has options, who won't tolerate half-hearted treatment, he steps up. Because he understands she won't settle for less than what she deserves. On the flip side, when a woman operates from a place of fear of losing him, fear of being alone, she shifts into desperation. She starts making excuses for him. She turns a blind eye to signs that he's not really invested. She starts believing that if she just tries harder, loves more, does more, then maybe he'll change. But he won't. You cannot force someone to love you by over-delivering. In fact, the more you give without return, the less he'll appreciate it. He sees he doesn't have to put in any effort because you're doing it all already. And what happens to anything that comes too easy? people stop valuing it. Men are wired to value what they earn. This isn't about being manipulative or making things difficult on purpose. It's about understanding that value and effort go hand in hand. When something is handed to someone without any work, they stop appreciating it. That's why you see men who were once completely invested slowly pull away when the woman starts carrying the whole relationship. When she becomes the one making all the effort, initiating everything, bending herself to keep him happy, he starts to lose interest. It's not because he's heartless, it's because people naturally take for granted what they no longer have to work for. The pursuit matters. The effort matters. And if you give too much without asking for anything in return, you're setting the standard that effort is optional. You can't start a relationship by doing everything and expect him to suddenly begin contributing more later. It doesn't work like that. He's already learned he doesn't have to. That's why it's so critical to set your expectations early. From day one, show that your energy, time, and love are valuable and not to be taken lightly. Some women are afraid that if they don't do enough, the man will leave, and maybe he will. But ask yourself, if he only stays because you're the one doing all the work, is that the kind of love you want? You shouldn't have to convince anyone of your value. You shouldn't have to drop your standards just to keep someone around. If you're constantly chasing a man, you're already losing yourself. A woman who knows her worth isn't afraid to walk away. She knows that love should be reciprocal, not one-sided. She doesn't wait around hoping someone will finally recognize what she brings to the table. She already knows. And that's power. She doesn't lose herself in a relationship because she knows that her happiness isn't tied to someone else. That's the kind of energy that makes a man rise to the occasion. When he sees that you're perfectly content on your own, he realizes that he has to offer something meaningful. He knows you're not desperate for his affection, and that makes you even more appealing. Desperation drives a man away, but confidence draws him in. It's not about arrogance or pretending to be unavailable. It's about understanding that you are deserving of love and respect without having to chase after it. A man will treat you according to the standard you set. If you accept the bare minimum, that's all you'll receive. But if you set a higher bar, the right man will elevate himself to reach it, and the wrong one will naturally fade away. And that's exactly the outcome you want. The way you treat yourself sets the example for how a man should treat you. If you accept toxic behavior, endless excuses, or emotional distance, you're sending the message, I don't value myself enough to walk away. How you speak about yourself, how you allow others to interact with you, it all communicates something. A man observes what you tolerate, and that tells him everything. If you repeatedly forgive disrespect, he learns that change isn't necessary. If you keep accepting apologies without real growth, he knows there are no lasting consequences. And when there's no consequence, the behavior continues. People don't treat you based on their nature alone. They treat you based on what you permit. Think about the strongest women you know, the ones who command attention and have relationships where they are loved and appreciated. Do you think they got there by accepting inconsistent affection or unclear intentions? Absolutely not. They set the tone early. They don't entertain men who bring chaos or confusion. They don't waste their energy explaining why they deserve better. They already know it. And they walk away from anything that doesn't align. Self-respect isn't about being unkind or distant. It's about recognizing your own worth so clearly that you won't engage in anything that diminishes it. When a man witnesses that level of self-respect, he understands that being with you is a privilege, not a right. and privileges come with responsibility. If he disrespects you, he loses access. It's that straightforward. But too often, women give countless chances. They tolerate behavior they know is wrong because they fear losing the man. But really, what's the value in holding on to someone who doesn't treat you right? A relationship without mutual respect is just solitude dressed up as companionship. You need to be willing to uphold your boundaries. A boundary without any consequence is nothing more than a weak suggestion. If you tell a man, I won't put up with dishonesty, but then you catch him lying and do nothing about it, you've shown him that your words hold no real weight. He learns that deception comes at no real price, and when there's no cost, there's no incentive to change. A man must understand that if he doesn't treat you right, he will lose you. Not as a threat, but as an undeniable reality. A woman who genuinely respects herself won't stay hoping he'll grow. She leaves when she sees he won't. It often begins subtly. Maybe he cancels plans at the last minute without a sincere reason. Maybe he brushes off your concerns or makes jokes about things that genuinely hurt you, expecting you to laugh them off. If you overlook these small signs, they begin to build. What starts as small disregard turns into deep emotional neglect. And by the time you notice how much you've compromised, it can feel like it's too late to undo the damage. But it's never too late. The moment you decide to stand in your worth, everything shifts. Men notice how you carry yourself. If you apologize too often, he starts thinking everything is your fault. If you're always seeking his approval, he may withhold it to maintain control. If you make him the center of your universe, he begins to act like he's above you. And this isn't because men are inherently bad, it's simply how human psychology works. People test boundaries often without realizing it. That's why setting boundaries early and consistently is crucial. When you treat yourself with the love and respect you deserve, things begin to transform. You stop over-explaining. You stop trying to convince someone to value you. You stop hoping for validation because you already know your worth. And once that becomes clear to you, you begin to attract an entirely different kind of man, the kind who sees your strength and respects it, who doesn't need reminders on how to treat you right because it comes naturally to him. But that shift only happens when you stop excusing bad behavior. Stop thinking that if you just love him a little harder, he'll come around. Stop believing that one day he'll suddenly see your value. The truth is, a man values what he has to work for. If you make yourself too easy to take for granted, he will. If you don't ask for effort, he won't offer it. If you let disrespect slide, he'll keep stretching the limits. This is why self-respect isn't just an inner feeling, it's a way of living. It shows up in what you say yes to and what you refuse to accept. You can't expect someone else to treat you better than you treat yourself. If you consistently put yourself last, he'll follow your lead. If you allow people to mistreat you in other parts of your life, he'll assume it's okay to do the same. Confidence is built through action. The more you practice self-respect, the more natural it becomes. You stop explaining why you expect more. Your behavior already shows it. You stop chasing love because the right love won't require a chase. And let's be clear, self-respect doesn't mean you act like you don't care. It doesn't mean playing emotional games or pretending to be distant just to create an illusion of value. It means knowing when enough is enough. It means not diluting your standards just to keep someone mildly interested. It means recognizing that love should bring peace, not feel like a constant battle for recognition. A man who genuinely values you will step up to meet your expectations. A man who doesn't will claim you're asking too much. Let him go. The most powerful stance you can take in any relationship is to be so anchored in your self-worth that you never settle. When a man sees that you hold yourself to a higher standard, he will either elevate himself to meet you or remove himself from the picture, and either outcome is a win. Because the right man won't be threatened by your self-respect, he'll be moved by it.